Welcome to NTD News. I'm Stephanie Cox. Here are today's top stories. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham says President Trump is planning to withdraw thousands of U.S. troops from Afghanistan. The U.S. and Mexico are working to calm a new dispute over the USMCA trade deal. Some Mexican officials say a U.S. plan to monitor labor provisions is not what they signed up for. Others insist that the disagreement doesn't threaten the deal. A top White House official says the partial U.S.-China trade deal is done. He says it will double the United States exports to China. Groups of pro-democracy protesters gathered in shopping malls across Hong Kong yesterday, holding a Christmas rally to restate their demands for reforms. And Boeing will stop production of the 737 MAX. The company was not successful in convincing regulators to put the plane back in the skies after 2 deadly crashes. Senator Lindsey Graham said today the U.S. is planning to draw down troops in Afghanistan, confirming rumors that it could be announced as early as this week. NTD's Holly Kellum has the details.
Senate Judiciary Chairman Lindsey Graham said on Monday that the U.S. is planning to draw down troops in Afghanistan. There are currently about 12,000 troops in the country. Graham says President Trump wants to reduce the number to 8,600. He said the announcement is likely to come this week. President Trump campaigned on drawing down troops in the country after 18 years of war. He visited U.S. troops there over Thanksgiving, where he hinted he wanted to bring some home.
We're reducing over here, but because of technology and all of the things that we have, we're able to reduce in Afghanistan, very substantially actually reduce, and do even more devastating attacks on the enemy.
The U.S. Defense Secretary has said he supports the move. Last week, he told Fox News he wants to send more troops to Asia to combat Chinese and Russian aggression.
It also allows us to free up troops to redeploy against those 2 other countries that we're most concerned about in the long term.
The news comes after a bombshell report by the Washington Post on the war. The report made public a government investigation into waste and fraud in the battlefield and has been compared to the Pentagon Papers. In it are interviews with a wide range of officials close to the operation, including Trump's former national security advisor and 3-star General Michael Flynn. The officials are quoted as saying that for almost 2 decades, the U.S. has made little progress despite the government painting a rosy picture of the mission's advances. Graham said troops are set to start coming home next year. Holly Kellum, NTD News.
A top White House official touted the Phase 1 trade deal with China today, saying it will double U.S. exports to China.
Top White House advisor Larry Kudlow affirmed Monday a U.S.-China trade deal Phase 1 is complete and now being translated.
Make no mistake about it, the deal is done. The deal is completed.
Kudlow also says the agreement will ease trade tensions and increase U.S. exports to China. Under the agreement, Beijing promises to increase imports from the U.S. in the next 2 years by $200 billion.
We are going to double U.S. exports. The positive effects on economic growth in this country cannot be exaggerated. In addition to lowering the tempers and putting some more certainty into it, I think you're going to get a very good business year out of this.
The 2 countries agreed on Phase 1 of a deal last week after 1.5 years of a trade war. President Trump claimed a trifecta of victories last week in advancing his America First trade policy. Besides the U.S.-China trade deal, the White House reached consensus with House Democrats on the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement and brought the World Trade Organization's appeal process to a halt, signifying his emphasis on making bilateral deals over global integration. Wall Street climbed to a new high Monday as trade risk is lowered and investors' sentiment improves. Kudlow also said on Monday he would visit Britain in early January for economic and trade talks.
The U.S. and Mexican governments are trying to defuse a growing controversy over a U.S. plan to monitor Mexican labor standards as part of a new trade deal. Mexico insists it would have the final say over any U.S. officials appointed to monitor how it implements its labor laws.
Controversy over the terms of the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement.
Primero, ¿el tratado está en cuestión? No.
Is the agreement in question? No. Was the agreement modified? No. Was something added that we don't know about that modifies that agreement? No. That's not the case.
Known as the USMCA, the deal would replace the 1994 North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA. The three countries agreed to new terms on Tuesday. That same day, the U.S. Congress described its plan to send diplomatic staff to Mexico to monitor whether the country was complying with the USMCA's labor agreements. But over the weekend, the Mexican government raised objections. The Mexican official in charge of the trade talks said the monitoring was not part of the deal they signed last week. Mexico's foreign minister says the spat between the two countries would not put the USMCA at risk, but he said Mexico would decide which U.S. staff would be allowed into the country.
Mexico will not authorize attaches unless we have naval, military attaches, but never with roles that go beyond that of attaches authorized by Mexico.
Mexico has a lot at stake with the new deal. About 80% of its exports are to the U.S.
Americans will now have more time to sign up for health insurance through healthcare.gov after consumers reported glitches in the website. The government announced today that the deadline, which was last night, has been extended to 3 a.m. on Wednesday. It said that some shoppers were experiencing problems in the hours before the exchanges closed. Those who left their name and contact information with the call center don't have to reapply during the extended deadline, and someone will get back to them this week. And reactions today from Washington and New Jersey after news broke that Democratic New Jersey Congressman Jeff Van Drew is planning to switch parties. He's been the most vocal Democrat against impeaching President Trump.
Congressman Jeff Van Drew, a Democrat, is likely switching parties over his promise to vote against impeachment. After meeting with Trump on Friday, he told staff over the weekend about his plans.
Assuming he does what everyone is signaling, he's putting politics over the Constitution. I think it's that simple.
New Jersey State Senate President Steve Sweeney called his switch a betrayal. He vowed to get him out of office in November if he joins Republicans. Van Drew managed to flip New Jersey's 2nd district for Democrats in last year's midterms. His district voted for Trump in the 2016 election and was represented by a Republican before him. House Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler said he's reacting to public polling that shows he can't get renominated. According to The Hill, an internal poll showed 58% of Democrats wanted to nominate someone else, while only 28% said Van Drew should be renominated. He's one of 2 House Democrats who voted against the resolution on the impeachment process. Trump on Twitter said Sunday Van Drew switching parties would be big. The House is expected to vote on articles of impeachment this week. Reporting by Holly Kellum, NTD News.
A new report says 2 Chinese embassy officials were secretly expelled by the U.S. government for driving onto a sensitive military base in Virginia in September.
According to New York Times reports, U.S. officials believe that at least one of the officials was an intelligence officer operating under diplomatic cover. The group, which included the officials' wives, drove through an entry checkpoint on the military base in Norfolk despite being denied permission and reportedly evaded military personnel that pursued them. They stopped driving only after fire trucks blocked their path, later claiming that they were lost. It appears to be the first time in more than 30 years that Chinese diplomats have been expelled over suspected espionage acts. The U.S. administration in recent years has stepped up efforts to combat concerns about suspected spying by Beijing. A law enforcement official familiar with the episode confirmed that the account is accurate.
China's state broadcaster CCTV removed soccer team Arsenal's Premier League game against Manchester City from its broadcast schedule on Sunday after one of the players criticized the Communist Party's treatment of an ethnic minority group.
A star player for the Arsenal Soccer Club seems to have stirred up a storm in China. Off-pitch midfielder Mesut Ozil criticised the country's policy towards its Muslim Uyghur minority over the weekend. A day later, Chinese state TV pulled coverage of Arsenal's Premier League game against Manchester City. Ozil had posted on Instagram in support of Uyghurs. He called them mujahids who resist torture and criticised both Beijing crackdown and the silence of Muslims in response. Arsenal immediately tried to distance itself from the comments. The club's official account on Chinese social media ran a statement that Arsenal always adheres to the principle of not being involved in politics. But in Turkey, the post was met with enthusiasm. Hours later in Istanbul, posters with Ozil's photo appeared at a rally against China. Many at the protest were members of the local Uyghur community, calling out Beijing's policy in Xinjiang, clampdown that's led to detention camps for Muslims. China says the camps are for vocational training and describes detainees as students. United Nations experts say at least between 1 million and 2 million people are held in harsh conditions in the region. They also accuse China of very significant human rights abuses against Uyghurs and other minorities. Beijing has repeatedly denied mistreatment of Uyghurs and calls its actions an anti-terrorism campaign.
Shouts of 5 demands, not one less, reverberated across Hong Kong over the weekend as protesters continued their 6-month-long protests, now at a public square and several shopping malls.
Groups of protesters marched through the malls, shouting slogans and urging people to boycott businesses that support the Hong Kong government. Riot police in one city fired tear gas canisters outside a mall, making multiple arrests, including a female who looked to be in her teens. Police threatened passers-by not to come close, and then fired pepper spray several times, hitting locals and several reporters. One video recorded by Epoch Times, a sister media of NTD, shows a man carrying shopping bags kicking a hammer-type tool toward the protester with his feet. Police then pushed the hammer closer to the protester. The rally, which had a Christmas shopping theme, was the latest in a series of demonstrations. In another shopping district, multiple journalists were injured as police sprayed tear gas to disperse the crowd.
Up next, parents and students sue Rhode Island over a lack of civics education. They say their kids graduate without basic knowledge. More on that after the break.
It was special for us.
Bring your family, let your children experience this.
I know my daughter just loves it. When the curtain first opened, I looked out at her face and she was amazed by what she saw.
It's great for the whole family.
And I have a granddaughter. I want her to see something like this because it'll probably enrich her soul and her development as a person. It would change her life.
It's hard for kids to listen to parents all the time, but when they hear it from an outside influence as well, reinforcing your values, that's great.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And her birthday was Friday, so we surprised her with tickets.
I was just so amazed. They're amazing, amazing dancers.
The girls are so elegant and beautiful, and the colors are amazing.
It's just amazing. It's truly breathtaking. Just the story. There's a story behind everything as well, which is amazing. There's so much culture.
It's a bridge between meditation and peace and where we are now in our busy lives.
As an adult and a teacher, it's awesome to see kids reacting and having that positive reaction to the show.
I will see it next year and year after that and the year after that. It is just incredible, absolutely beautiful.
I wish I could see it again, like right now.
Viewers have described China Uncensored like The Daily Show, but about China.
At the beginning, I was super excited when I got 500 views, and now the show's grown to about 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. One episode reached 7.9 million people. I'm a little freaked out that that many people have seen my face. In 5 years, I see China Uncensored as the sole source of edutainment worldwide.
Cities and states have railed against flavored vaping products, and today the mayor of New York City has banned all flavors that could be friendly to kids. NTD's Miguel Moreno has more on the ban.
Mayor Bill de Blasio has banned kid-friendly flavors of e-cigarettes and liquids in New York City.
We will protect the health of all New Yorkers, especially our children. We will protect their health at any cost.
Most flavors are now banned: bubblegum, fruit, and others, including menthol. The only exceptions are tobacco-flavored products. The mayor said this is a blow to tobacco companies that have deceptively targeted their products to children by using kid-friendly advertising.
We had children at our hearing on this bill as young as 11 who spoke about their avoidance of bathrooms in their middle schools because they know that kids will be vaping there. They don't want the peer pressure.
Councilmember Mark Levine said he understands that some people use these products, e-cigarettes and e-liquids, to make a transition to a tobacco-free life. But he said this is about protecting children from these products. So he said people will still be able to purchase tobacco-flavored e-cigarettes and liquids in New York City. The law goes into effect in 180 days. Miguel Moreno, NTD News, New York.
With the 2020 election fast approaching, a first of its kind, a federal court hearing in Rhode Island showing that civics education is of growing concern. NTD's Melina Wisecup has more.
Parents and students in Rhode Island are concerned that schools aren't providing basic knowledge needed to be active citizens in our democracy. They're waiting on a decision in a case before the federal court.
We're asking for what's called a declaratory judgment. Whether there's a right to an education that prepares you to exercise important constitutional rights.
The 2020 election is just around the corner, and many question if young adults are prepared to participate.
You can't ask people to vote if they don't know what it means, if they don't know how this works. They need to understand the general concepts of government.
A report by Center for American Progress shows that only 23% of middle and high school students reach a proficient level of civics education, and students say they feel the loss.
I feel like a lot of people nowadays don't really know how the government works or the real issues.
We're not very informed unless you actively try to inform yourself.
We had AP Government, we had AP US History, AP World History, basically all the histories you can cover, but none of them were ever going to tell us how we're going to function in society, whether pay bills or actually vote.
Even in states where civics education is required, it is still a low priority.
Even though the courts have emphasized the importance of civic preparation, that still tends to be a low priority.
If the case does in fact move forward, we may expect to see U.S. schools giving civics education more priority. Melina Wisecup, NTD News, New York.
Factual,
honest news.
Not biased, but completely straightforward.
You're not emotionally going up and down.
Bringing morality back to newspapers.
Be honest, old-fashioned journalism.
You're presenting the facts and letting the reader decide.
The Epoch Times is a fearlessly independent news media that publishes in 35 countries and 21 languages. Truth and tradition is our motto. Founded as an antidote to communist propaganda, today we're quickly becoming a household name across America. Our subscribers thank us for our relentless and unbiased coverage.
I've been part of the Epoch Times for nearly a decade because I've seen there's no other major media outlet in the world as devoted to real journalism. The Epoch Times has never had any corporate or political agenda. We only serve our readers, and we'll stay that way, no matter what.
We connected the dots around Spygate, the Obama administration's elaborate efforts against Trump's 2016 campaign. We often break news months ahead of other media on topics such as Chinese espionage, cyber warfare, subversion in America, and more. But our authoritative reporting didn't only just begin. We are tried and true.
Our paper was born out of the need to respond to a human rights catastrophe in China. It was enabled by the Communist Party's vicious and dishonest propaganda. We soon learned that Western media were picking up and amplifying the lies. The Epoch Times' truthful reporting exposed the Communist Party's lies for the Chinese people. But it also helped protect our Western audience. It disabused for them the lies in this propaganda. Our reporting has also helped uncover how communist ideas are taking root in our own country. The Epoch Times started as a small and unknown publication in one of the toughest media markets in the world. We have built it through hard work and trial and error.
We were founded in the year 2000 in Atlanta, Georgia, by Chinese Americans who had fled communist China. Our independent reporting came at a price. Our staff members in China were jailed and tortured for their reporting, some for as long as 10 years. Because our founders believed in truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance, the principles of the spiritual practice fallen gone. They felt such sacrifices were worth it to ensure for the world an independent, honest media, one that would report on the most pressing issues of our time. As many major media are losing people's trust and declining further every day, the fastest growing newspaper in America delivers truth and tradition. Look us up today.
Toronto police say the private investigation into a billionaire couple killed 2 years ago is over. However, there's no mention of any leads on a suspect.
Good morning. Police say the private investigation into the killing of a Toronto billionaire couple in 2017 is over, but it doesn't mean the case is over. Inspector Hank Itzinga read a statement from the family and police that said investigators were analyzing the data obtained through the investigation.
243 witnesses have been interviewed. 4 terabytes of security video has been obtained. 205 tips have been provided directly to the police from the public.
Barry and Honey Sherman were murdered in their home on December 13th. They were found dead by the pool. Itzinga said police are still seeking tips from the public and that the investigation continues.
And there's just a massive volume of information in relation to this case.
Barry Sherman was the founder of generic drug company Apotex. Investigators determined he and his wife died through strangulation from the belts found around their necks.
Coming up, festive spirits abound at a large Paris Christmas market. That and more after the break.
When you look at TV networks in America, a soundbite and fight-it-out culture prevails on news and commentary programs. As a Canadian, I'm fascinated with America, and I wanted to offer American thought leaders an opportunity to share their thoughts in a deep dive format, where we can explore their ideas together. And so American Thought Leaders was born. The world's most brilliant thinkers believed that open discourse was the key to greatness. However, all around the world, we see that discourse is being stifled, and political agendas have subverted media. The Epoch Times launched its Global Thought Leaders program to bring back this great tradition of free thought. As the host of American Thought Leaders, every week I interview some of the most intriguing minds on the most pressing issues of our time. Be sure to check out our new episodes every week.
One of the best ways to get into the festive holiday spirit is to take a walk around a Christmas market. Our France correspondent in Paris brings us a taste of Christmas magic from the largest market in the city.
This is the Paris business district La Défense. Amidst the high concrete towers, little wooden chalets host the largest Christmas market in the region.
The market brings together 350 exhibitors selling all kinds of goods, some of which are traditional handcrafts, some trendy and quite peculiar.
Wandering through the alleys, searching for the perfect Christmas gift can take some time. One way the people here fight off feeling cold is by eating foods high in fat.
This looks good, doesn't it?
Cheese, warm wine, but also pastry are the best Christmas market food. This is Queen Amman, a type of Breton cake. It was created a century ago by a baker from Brittany. The baker had nothing but bread dough, butter, and sugar, and he had the idea to imprison the butter and sugar inside the dough. I heard you can find it in New York. It's very unique. According to a 2014 New York Times story, this cake is described as the fattiest pastry in all of Europe. A feature of the market is the expedition, 1,500 santons. These small hand-painted terracotta figurines form a nativity scene. They stand next to miniature pine trees. These santons are a traditional sight to see over Christmas. Looking around the market is great if you're struggling for gift ideas.
Those nutcracker toys are a bestseller so far. Maybe it's because of the movie.
You can even find items to join in with newer Christmas trends.
You know Rudolph, don't you? His nose has a big pom-pom. It's because he's the leader of Santa's reindeer.
In recent years, people compete with each other to find the ugliest Christmas sweater.
This is the most kitsch and funny of her sweaters. The little penguin that has borrowed Rudolph's hat and nose.
But where does this ugliest sweater competition come from?
For that, you have to ask the British.
The market is also a great place to find decorations.
So here we personalize balls and any Christmas decorations.
Last year, La Défense Market drew 1 million visitors, including workers, Paris residents, and tourists. The traditional handcrafted goods pull in visitors looking for Christmas gifts that they don't see anywhere else. Unlike online shopping, the Christmas market brings a full festive experience to finding that very special gift.
And that's all for today's news. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox.